Hello, 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 and welcome back to the channel. If this is your first time here, my name is Rita. I hope you all are doing well. So we're going to jump right into it today. Jesse Jackson's son, Jonathan Jackson, who is an alderman in Chicago. Now, I'm going to play a clip for you. And in this clip, he is gaslighting the people in the audience, gaslighting the constituents in the South Shore area of Chicago, and basically sympathizing with dictators in order to garner sympathy from the voters to allow these Venezuelan migrants to continue in.
Where are the migrants coming from in this wave? The migrants in large part are coming from Venezuela. What's happened in Venezuela? The United States, after the President Hugo Chavez came to power almost 15 years ago, he has since has died. He was a socialist and was doing a lot of economic reforms. There was a backlash against his government by the United States. So we started doing an embargo, blocking his oil sales. Then from there, we started the sanctions under the Trump administration. So what's happened in the last 15 years in Venezuela is they've had the equivalent of 3 Great Depressions. So this is one of the wealthiest countries on earth if they could sell their oil, but they've had the equivalent of 3 Great Depressions. So now over 7 million people have had to leave their country. Many of the people that you're seeing in these shelters and police stations and so forth had a house, had an apartment, had a place to stay. But because we've taken them out of the foreign exchange process, the United States government, you cannot use a U.S. credit card in Venezuela.
This whole thing about America putting sanctions. We've heard this about Cuba, about how the reason Cuba is in the state that it's in is because of U.S. sanctions. And now what you're going to hear is the same talking point from Jonathan Jackson, again, Jesse Jackson's son, about Venezuela. People are starving in Venezuela because the U.S. has put sanctions on them and they're unable to sell their oil. Now, we also put sanctions on Russia, but it's still crack-a-lacking over there. But we're going to talk about why Venezuela is the way it is. What our government is actually doing to enable all these people, encourage all these people to just flood into the border. Asylum is not what you thought it was. So that's why you keep hearing them say asylum seekers, and they're not calling them illegals anymore because they have effectively changed what it means to be an asylum seeker. Now, I want you to notice in the first part of the first half of what he's talked about there, he said that Hugo Chavez got into power and implemented socialism and was trying to make economic reforms, he called it. That's what he called it. And then he skipped over everything that happened in between. Well, let me fill you in.
As soon as he came to power, Chavez wasted no time in changing Venezuela's constitution. At that point, Venezuelan presidents were limited to only 1 term in office, but Chavez didn't want just 1 term. He called a referendum on whether to change the constitution and won. There was then an election to determine who would write the new constitution, and again Chavez won. The new constitution came into effect in 1999. This, importantly, meant that Chavez would be able to run for a 2nd term. Also significantly, it decreased the power of Congress, which was good for Chavez since he didn't control Congress. With almost total power, Chavez began the policy that would be one of the most damaging to the Venezuelan economy. That policy was expropriation, also called nationalization. Essentially, it meant that the government confiscated businesses or land from private citizens. The first examples were the expropriation of farmland. Chavez wanted land to be taken from the rich and given to the poor. He gave low-level officials the power to seize land that they deemed not productive enough. The official could then give the land to somebody else.
And so, yes, rightfully so, we put sanctions on them. Now, what happens when sanctions, we'll use Cuba for an example. What happens in Cuba with the embargo that that a lot of these super radicals in our Congress right now are always talking about the embargoes is why Cuba is the way it is and why Venezuela is the way it is. No, any first aid services, any like necessities that the people actually need, that can still be transported back and forth. There's nothing that affects goods and services in that capacity from getting to the people. Now, what does affect goods and services, like humanitarian type things, to get to the people is the dictatorial governments that you have in place in Venezuela and Cuba, because what typically happens is they stop the goods and services at customs in those countries, and the goods and services never reach the people. Instead, because this is what dictators do, they help all their friends and family, and the people who are actually supposed to get the aid don't get it. This is why the embargoes are in place for places like Venezuela and Cuba, because we are not trying to enrich dictators. Hugo Chavez and Nicolas Maduro, who's over there now, his successor, we're not trying to enrich those people to further oppress their citizens. This is why there's an embargo in place. But the Black liberation people like Jonathan Jackson here, his talking points, and others that we've heard in the Democrat Party, they all talk about imperialism and colonizers. And the reason that Venezuelans are fleeing is because the U.S. has made these conditions unlivable. Now, on that note, this is what you're going to hear more of how the U.S. has torn apart every other country. And that is why we citizens must take these people in. We must. So this guy is right now pleading with the people in Chicago and basically saying it's our fault, so we must bring him in.
Have not addressed the issue.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Wait a minute. You danced all around it.
Okay.
You did not give any specific solutions on what you want to do. Anybody can stop.
Okay, no, thank you. Let me ask you. Can you help me with the solution you'd like to see me do?
Surely, I can help you with the solution. I can give you I give you one simple answer. Send them back. That's the only solution. That's it. Other than that, they will surpass us. It is math. It's simple math. They will overtake us in numbers at the rate that they have kids. They cannot be U.S. citizens. You are dooming our next generation to subservitude. I'm telling you this. Okay. It's just simple math.
You can see the guy at the end was not having it. He was not having it. He understood that this was a diversion. Oh, well, because America is basically not playing nice, so to speak, this is why they're in poverty. No, they are in poverty because of mismanagement. Those people voted the same way these people here in Chicago have voted for people like Jonathan Jackson. The same people in Venezuela voted for that. They voted for Hugo Chavez. I'm sure they didn't think that he was going to come in there and start stripping them of their homes and all their goods. I'm just saying that to say, those people voted in these freedom fighters or these liberation front people who are anti-capitalism. They voted for those people. That is why Venezuela is the way it is. Let's get on the fact that this guy blames Greg Abbott. Try to get them to think that Greg Abbott, oh, I got company, my cat. Greg, you want to say hi? Do you want to say hi? Oh, honey bear, say hi to the people. Say hi. He once again tries to gaslight the voters.
The wave that what Mr. Abbott was doing, he created Operation Lone Star. And the purpose of that was to send this migrant population to 6 cities, this is his quote, that had Democratic mayors to take this population. So he's receiving money from ICE and other agencies in FEMA, keeping the money, and then sending the people on.
Now, sir, that is not what this is about. Greg Abbott is sending these people to sanctuary cities. Democrats are the ones who propose these in all of these different cities, that they be a sanctuary place. And if you're not sure about how sanctuary cities work, sanctuary city basically says that the state, if it's a sanctuary state, or if it's a sanctuary city, that the local authorities will not work with ICE to detain or deport any illegals. Okay, in a nutshell, that's basically what this is. It will not work with ICE at any level. So because Chicago, along with New York and some whole host of other places, have decided they want to be a sanctuary city, then Greg Abbott is sending them there not because they're Democrats, but because it's a sanctuary city. Texas is not a sanctuary state. Texas does not have sanctuary cities. Austin, I think, tried to be. That is the deal. That is why he sent them there, because it is illegal in Texas to hold illegals. It is not that way in Chicago and the other places that say they won't work with ICE. Here's the other thing that you hear a lot is that Greg Abbott is trafficking people.
I sent out a letter 3 weeks ago, asking the Department of Justice and the Department of Homeland Security to investigate Governor Greg Abbott on child smuggling.
No, those people are asked where they want to go.
Where they choose which state to go to. We've been asking a lot of them here at the bus station, where are you going? Where are you from?
De Colombia.
Colombia? ¿Dónde va?
A Chicago.
¿A dónde va?
A Nueva York. A Venezuela.
¿Dónde va?
A Denver. Vengo de Venezuela.
¿Dónde vas?
Voy a Denver, Colorado.
Denver. ¿A dónde viene?
¿A dónde vengo? De Venezuela.
¿Venezuela?
Nos vamos a Denver para que nos logren apoyar, ayudar con unos boletos para ir a nuestro destino que es New Jersey.
Where are you going?
Ahorita voy a Denver. Y de Denver voy a un refugio que nos están regalando, nos están apoyando. Ahí mismo en Denver, para los pasajes para Nueva York.
Venezuela.
Venezuela. ¿And dónde va?
Va a Tennessee.
Tennessee. Okay, wow.
A Chicago.
Washington.
Oh, that's where we're from.
Washington.
DC? Yeah. We'll see you there. ¿Dónde vienes?
Pero vamos para Denver. Venezuela.
Venezuela.
Primero vamos igual de Venezuela, pero primero vamos para Denver porque allá supuestamente dicen que nos regalan el pasaje cuando uno quiera ir.
By and large, the people that are coming here, as you can see, they're all just expecting the government to do something for them. They're expecting it, but they all keep calling them asylum seekers. These are asylum seekers, right? And what we know about asylum is supposed to be, okay, according to the U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services, it says here, every year people come from the United States seeking protection, or come to the United States seeking protection because they have suffered persecution or fear that they will suffer persecution due to race, religion, nationality, membership in a particular social group, or political opinion. Now, if these people are under persecution, Mr. Jackson, who is persecuting them? Who is persecuting them? It wouldn't be the Venezuelan government that you are sympathizing with that's persecuting them, right? Because I thought they were wonderful. I thought Maduro was basically not doing anything wrong. And it was Trump's fault that, Trump stopped the oil, or put the embargo back in place. I thought it was all Trump's fault. I thought it was, I thought the Venezuelan government was just trying to, impose economic change. Surely they're not being persecuted. But no, here's the caveat to this. So the Biden-Harris administration they put in place a new thing called parole request. It's basically, when I read through it, it's basically a way to circumvent, even though it says it's not a way to go around the natural immigration process, but it totally is a way to circumvent going through the legal standards that we've had in place for obtaining visas and all that stuff, right? Citizenship, yada, yada, yada. So it says here about this parole request. Okay, and a lot of them are called parole unification. So they have programs set up for Ukraine, for Cuba, for Venezuela, and now for Ecuador. And there might be another one, I'm not sure. Afghanistan. No, not Afghanistan. They have a different one for them. So there's a parole unification type of thing that is called like family unification. So basically, if they have family here, they're able to just come here and stay, as long as they have family who can confirm that, hey, that this is family. Okay, and they have all these different pathways and all these different ways. Basically, they're just letting people in. So let me read to you from the DHS website, and this is regarding this whole parole thing. Okay, parole request. And it says Section 212 of the Immigration and Nationality Act authorizes the Secretary of Homeland Security at his or her discretion to parole into the United States temporarily under such conditions as he or she may prescribe, only on case-by-case basis for urgent humanitarian reasons or significant public benefit any alien applying for admission to the United States. Did you hear that part? Humanitarian, it said. Okay. So we just read the thing about asylum, but they are now including humanitarian. That's why in Jonathan Jackson's talk, if you saw on the board back here, I'll pop it back up. You saw that there was his point 3 listed, an advocate for humanitarianism or something like that, right? A humanitarian advocate. So they are trying to incorporate humanitarianism into this whole asylum seeker. So when they say asylum, they're not just talking about people who have been persecuted by their government. They're also talking about people coming here for economic reasons, right? Or humanitarian reasons, right? And what they'll say is it's the US's fault, so we must let them in. So this is why all these pathways, Biden and Harris, if you go to their website under parole requests or parole program, you will see they have a whole thing of how they've created these parole programs. And basically it says here a non-citizen, and again, this is from the DHS website, and I'll leave the links below, of course, to the documents if you're interested. And it says a non-citizen who is present in the United States without inspection and admission or inspection and parole is an applicant for admission. DHS can exercise discretion to parole such a person into the United States. Now get this, an individual who was paroled has not been admitted to the United States and remained as an applicant for admission even while paroled. In general, an individual must file a form, yada, yada, yada. The part that says parole allows a non-citizen who may be inadmissible to enter the United States for a temporary period and for a specific purpose. A non-citizen who is present in the United States without inspection and admission or inspection and parole is an applicant for admission. So DHS is, using their own discretion. And basically what it is right now is just come on through. There are actually reports on the DHS website if you're interested. I'm sorry, on the DHS website, Department of Homeland Security. If you are interested, there are documents that show you, or reports that show you how many people are coming under like all these different parole pathways. So that's what they're calling it in the legal talk is, like parole, right? Parole requests. These are people who they're just letting in. Okay. And yes, they're cloaking it under humanitarianism. It's no longer just about being a political prisoner or being persecuted in your country. This is about, or if your living conditions are bad in your country because of the people you voted in who have fleeced everyone. And now you want to come over here. And obviously the expectation, as we can see in New York, the expectation is that they're going to just come here and live like Americans live who pay all these taxes and who did not vote for Nicolas Maduro or Hugo Chavez. This is the stuff that they are pushing and trying to gaslight people into thinking that it's our fault that Venezuela is struggling the way it is. It's all our fault, and that we should bear the brunt of what's going on by taking all their people in. They say they vet them. We know they're not vetting. We've seen the videos of them all just pouring in. And so this is what we have. We have like millions of gotaways, meaning those are people who didn't even try to go through the port of entry. Now, why would you not go through the port of entry if you know that you have a real asylum request? And obviously people who are evading law enforcement, and we got over 1 million of them coming in. But here's one other thing I want to talk about before I go. This idea that we are a nation of immigrants. We are a nation of immigrants. We're a nation of immigrants. We should take all people, yada, yada, yada. What these people fail to mention is that what we didn't have was this money grubbing government that is just taken from the people and creating all sorts of social welfare programs that, there's so much money just flying out the window for people who are not even eligible. I would venture to say more than half the people that are on these social programs, these welfare programs are not really eligible, like able-bodied individuals who could work. I'm just saying, and they're not. So we have this vast social program. All these social programs that we're paying for, that they did not have when people came over here on Ellis Island. Okay. They did not have those. People who came here knew that with $1 in their pocket or whatever, knew that they had to get in here, network, and get into a neighborhood and start working, doing whatever they could. That's my discussion about how Mr. Jonathan Jackson is trying to gaslight all of the people in the South Shore area in Chicago, in the voter in the audience who said that they are going to replace those black people in the area. You are right, sir. These are the types of people they want. They don't want people who are going to demand that the government stop stealing from them and stop doing the wrong things that they're doing. They want people who are just going to come in here and submit to the government. That's a lot easier. I mean, if they can get those people to vote, which I'm going to look into the census and see what that's all about, because I wonder what this influx of population is going to do to the census in these areas, because your seats in the House based on the population. That's for another video. Let me know what you guys think in the comments, and don't forget, check out my Patreon, check out my Buy Me a Coffee, all my stuff's links in the description. Until next time, ciao, God bless.